Welcome to Seaview Circle.
And Seaview Circle, our podcast in which we recap and review our favorite TV shows and movies of the past, present, and possibly the future, all in service to our end goal of determining just how highbrow or lowbrow our viewing taste is.
Oh, and in the process, we explore styles, fashions, and locations often lost to the decades.
There's some work going on at Kenny and Ginger's, so it's a little crazy over here.
They're trying to do all the repairs.
Yeah, after the stereo system got crashed. If you're just joining us for the first time this season, then I suppose it's important to let you know that we've been covering season 1 of Knots Landing, the longest-running primetime serial of its era.
In fact, Knots debuted exactly 45 years ago today. December 27th, 1979. But of course, you can now stream it on Plex TV, Apple TV, and Prime Video.
To celebrate, we are excited today to give you a little bonus episode to our first season of the podcast. We're going to be tying up some loose ends, revealing poll results, reading viewer comments, and offering up some extra morsels and final thoughts about the first season as a whole. I wonder if there's any bloopers flying around.
We also sit down with Diane Letulier, the writer and editor of Knots Landing, Recipes and Memories, for a chat about what inspired her to compile her cookbook and start the popular Facebook group Knots Landing Chronicles.
All that and more in this recap of the Recaps podcast. But first, let's head back to the studio for some letters from the sack.
All right, so hi, back in the studio. It's a little bit warmer in here, don't you think?
Well, thank goodness, because
not so windy.
Yeah, it's not so windy outside, and it's chilly out there. It is winter after all in Southern California,
yes.
You know.
So let's get into our letters from the sack. I have a really, really great one that I would like you to read.
Okay.
All right. Here we go.
Let's hope my reading capabilities are good.
This one is from Instagram, by the way.
Okay. Doug and Brady, I have absolutely been enjoying your Knots Landing podcast. My favorite parts are when you guys showcase the vintage oddities, Bradley dolls, Holly Hobby, etc. I'm a collector of vintage tablecloths and dishes. Fiesta ware was the gateway drug. But 8 years ago, we bought a house that was built in 1978.
Lucky you.
Yeah, my favorite era for design, music, pop culture, etc. So I've been not slowly accumulating items from the era. They sound like us.
They sound like kindred spirits.
Yes, total
sure.
kindred spirits. On Knots Landing, I've been eyeing the dishes. In Laura's kitchen, the Mikasa Tangent line by Bob Van Allen, terracotta colorway, is used. Matlock's Della Robbia seems to hop between Val and Karen's houses. This one sticks around, though, at least till season 7.
Wow.
In the season 2 episode where Kristen visits Royal China's Santa Fe pattern is used as Val and Gary's kitchen table.
Wow, okay.
Okay. I own a stack of these dinner plates personally. I'm not sure which China pattern Earl Trent destroyed. I need to pay better attention. There are others, but their names escape me right now.
Wow. Amazing.
Val Martin. Here's the Royal China Santa Fe, taken on the morning we made fritters.
Oh, that's right. So, yeah, she sent us a photo of the dishware. And I have to say, this level of scrutiny and attention to detail, we really appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, I'm into it, but I don't know.
Should we try to stump Val? Do you got any dishes, any vintage dishes you might want to show off?
I just pulled a few here that are just...
Because, Val had spotted that we were using the Noritake a couple episodes back.
Right, so the Noritake, I got to say, personally is one of my favorites because we got the entire set at this thrift store, right, kind of before we moved into this home.
That's right, I remember.
And it was like, I scored almost the entire set. I did get a couple little pieces. I just broke something too, which really peed me off. But I'm going to get, I'm going to get it.
Replacements.com is
Replacements.com or eBay. And I'm going to get this casserole dish thing I've been looking at too. So anyways, this is the Noritake. If you want to see the pattern, this is the Mardi Gras pattern. I'm not going to complain about some of the sizes of the bowls. But anyway, that's a cool pattern. Now, the other one I'm always a big fan of, anything orange or green or whatever, but this is just like your classic vintage Fire King milk glass.
Love those. Love
and
those.
I love, I think I've broken through the years. I've had so many little coffee mugs and things. I used to have the green and I had the orange. They all seem to have broken. But anyway, I still have one left.
I think the reason that they break is because they're the first ones that we go into the cabinet to use.
Yeah, totally. So anyway.
Because they look kind of like candy.
So I love the Fire King. Totally into that. Here's another great little example.
this
This
is
is
gorgeous.
I think I found 3 of these. Mikasa. This is the Calypso pattern from Japan, and that's such a great little.
Show it so they can see. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's
so
cute.
gorgeous.
So I wish, if in an ideal world, I'd love to have the whole set of that. But for the now, we just use them for like you're gonna heat
Little side dish, little
a little biscuit. And then lastly, the only other one I brought is, I love this too. It's a Mikasa. It's the curry yellow.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
I had some great bowls, little bowls that they were the cat bowls. The problem.
Hey, listen, the cat's got to eat in style. You
Well,
know
I
what
first
mean?
think what happened is I found 2 of the cat bowls at the thrift store, and then Grovey, God rest his soul, our baby who passed away in August, he would jump up and basically break them. So he broke 2, and then I think I bought 2 more,
He's a rascal.
and
He
those
was a
got
rascal.
broken as well. Probably, I might have broken one. Anyway, so
Well,
now we just have a plate.
I have to say, Val, that was an awesome comment, and we look forward to taking that look into the dishes as we go into season 2. Really good attention to detail there. I like that. All right, so we have actually another letter from the SAC. This is via Instagram as well.
Yeah, and this is from @the Escapism Hatch.
Oh, right. Yeah. So they have actually messaged us before, and they're the ones that have the Charlie's Angels accounts and do a lot of great stuff, a lot of vintage TV. They sent us an image of their Spotify Wrapped, which is like the top 5, and we were in the top 5. So
Oh, cool.
can you
Well,
ma-
thank you.
yes.
Well, here's what they wrote. They said, I don't understand why you're number 5 because I only listened to that Britney audiobook thing for a week. But I hope you guys continue your podcast. You'll be in my top 3 next year easily. Just wanted to say again that I enjoy your podcast and appreciate all the time and work that you put into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, it's nice to know that we're appreciated,
Yes,
especially during this festive season.
Yes. All season long of our podcast, we've given a lot of love to the people who've sent us messages through Gmail or in direct messages on Instagram, or maybe even left comments on our YouTube. But this time out, I want to give some love to our listeners over on Spotify.
Yay, Spotify.
So I'm going to read some of the comments here. Give me a moment and put on my glasses because I can't read the screen without them, right? So the first one here I have is from a listener called Satchel. This is on the episode of The Three Sisters. We did the watch along of the Halloween episode, which was kind of a little jump to season 3. And Satchel says that Laura got the car from her boss at the firm she works for, but then she also got one from Richard as well. I'm not sure which one she had in this episode, but it's a good episode. So that was in reference to, remember we were talking about how she had this brand new Mercedes,
Yeah.
right? Because she's now a real estate agent. So
Of course, she certainly stepped it up a few notches from first season when she's driving the old Datsun,
Right.
and it's all beaten up and
Right,
missing the
right.
rims.
All right, now we have a message from Dolores. Okay,
Dolores.
this is on the episode Land of the Free.
Oh,
Which
yes.
is our other watch along.
Yep.
And Dolores writes, music, the leader of the biker gang, and his perfect red shirt, just like the Fonz on Happy Days. He had a closet full of perfectly pressed shirts.
I'm sure he did.
Also, he was a total sociopath, leading his gang to the beach and later to the cul-de-sac, and then egging Alien on even after Karen dropped the charges. He just sits back and watches it all happen. Oh my God, that was a crazy episode, I have to say. We have another message here from Soft Spoken. This is short but sweet on the episode The Lie. Soft Spoken says, Richard is horrible.
I can agree many times. I love him, but he is horrible.
And then Dolores comes through again. This is on the episode Community Spirit, which is the one where JR came to visit. And Dolores says, my favorite line from JR, oh, I just love cookbooks, which that was mine too.
That was your
mine
favorite
too.
line.
So glad to have someone with whom to share the absolute joy that is Knots Landing.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. And thank you to everybody.
We're having fun.
There's some
We're
other
all having
comments as
fun,
well. So
you know?
Anyway, thank you, Spotify listeners. Now, if you would like to message us, you may do so. You can leave comments on Spotify, or you can message us over at our Instagram, which is, of course, at Seaview Circle. That is SEEVIEW Circle. Of course, you know that by now.
And if you want to email us, it's the same, seaviewcircle@gmail.com. And again, C is SEE. Okay.
Now, mentioning Spotify and Instagram, over the season, we have been putting up some polls every now and again. We didn't do them for every single episode, but what we'd like to do now as part of our season 1 wrap-up is reveal all of those poll results, and we're going to do it in quick succession, so here we go.
Okay. In the poll, do pots and pans make a good gift for a spouse? Yes, 62%. No, 38%.
All right, so that was from that episode with David Crane, where Sid and Karen were kind of negotiating their marriage after several years.
Right.
And Karen had been tempted by the young gentleman, and Karen gets the gift of the pots and pans. This was kind of one of my favorite moments of the season, I must say.
Well, I told you I had a kinship with that episode too, because that was what you gave me for my 50th birthday. He said, "What do you want?" I'm like, "I want Le Creuset cookware." And you got it for me.
And there you have it. Yes, 62%. It makes a good gift, okay? All right, now, from the episode, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? We have the poll results. What do you cherish most about Julie Harris's career? 84.6% said Julie Harris's Knots Landing run as Lily May, while the remaining 15.4% preferred her horror or suspense films.
Oh, cool. So this is from the episode Home is for Healing.
Oh, yes, where Lucy came to visit.
Right, when Lucy came to visit. So, would you rather visit vintage Marineland or sit on a porch with Dilf Gary?
Oh, I can imagine who's going to win out here.
So the visit vintage Marineland was at 42.9%.
Oh, that's still pretty healthy amount of people. I want to go to Marineland.
Yeah, and sit on the porch with Dilf Gary got a 57.1%.
Well, I also want to sit on the porch with Dilf Gary.
You know what's weird? I forgot to tell you, but I met somebody the other day who worked at Marineland as a child.
Oh,
it was just really weird.
Oh, what did
I was
they
doing
say
an open
about
house.
it?
I was just like, we were geeking out and talking about like South Bay and stuff. And so anyway, I just thought that was kind of a full circle moment.
Okay. Now, next up, we have the poll results from the Land of the Free watch along. The question was, do you think the action-packed Land of the Free fits in the Knots Landing universe? 66.6% of you said yes, it does.
Oh, okay, good.
While 33.3% said no.
Well, it fits in the universe now because it's
there.
It's there, and they did it.
It happened.
Yeah, it already happened. So
next up, Douglas.
Okay. So this is coming from the Civil Wives episode.
Ah, yes.
So the question is, have you ever been intimidated by the ex of your spouse/partner? Yes, 83%.
Woo!
No, 17%.
Okay.
There's a lot of jealous people out there, huh?
Okay, next up we have, this was a fun one. This is from the episode where Ginger has the stalker, right? And the reason why we did this was because Kim Langford obviously appeared in Love Boat for so many episodes. So the poll question was, who is your favorite prolific Knots guest star on the Love Boat? And 28.5% said Michele Lee.
Yeah.
And another 28.5% chose Donna Mills.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, I don't think we've ever even seen one of
I don't think we've seen the Donna Mills one
yet. We need to see
yet.
that soon.
Yeah.
All right. 21.4% chose Michelle Phillips.
Okay. Yeah, she's on a few. I've definitely seen a few of hers.
Lisa Hartman got 14.3% of the votes. And then at 7.3% is Joan Van Ark. So, looking forward to seeing more of those. We've been kind of watching.
Well, we were saying, I think we should totally do it. Maybe we need to do like a watch along and we could all be commenting live. It would be fun.
That would be fun.
We could try to figure out how to do that. So from Courageous Convictions, this question is, how do you like your steak? You remember that one?
Yeah, I remember.
That was also probably like one of our favorite lines, I remember, of that episode.
Yeah.
So it's the conditions of the steak are as follows. Well, weller, wellest, corn only, please.
Oh, that was Kenny. Kenny only wanted corn.
Right.
He's a vegetarian.
So the winner was, 33.3%. Weller, 16.7%. Wellest, 22.2%.
Okay.
And corn only please was 27.8%. So, I mean,
so
personally,
people either like it kind of on the rarer side or on the fully burnt side.
they definitely don't agree with me because I like
I know,
it.
we're medium rares.
I like a medium rare, like a little bloody,
Okay, now the final poll of the season was from the bottom of the bottle, part 2. And the question was, following his romp with Sylvie, Kenny wants to know, remember he asked the kids at the zoo, do you think that he and Ginger should kiss and make up? The answers were 15%, yes, no love is perfect.
Aw.
23% said, no, he'll never change. And he may never change. And the majority said, 62% said, not now, make him grovel a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would say too.
Yeah, he's just too much. It's a little outrageous, especially the way that the season ended.
The way he lies. I mean, he lied about it, so many things, like right after another. So that's a no-no.
Yeah, he was a scoundrel.
If you just be honest about it, then maybe there's some wiggle room. But like,
I mean, maybe Ginger wanted to go out on a date.
Hello.
I mean, she could have gone out with not Michael, sorry.
Eric?
Younger men.
Eric?
Yeah.
What would her sister Jill think?
Oh, it would be okay, I'm sure.
That was a lot of fun doing those polls throughout the season, and you can be on the lookout over on Spotify and Instagram for more polls in the future. But of course, aside from that, you may also find us on YouTube. That is our visual representation of this podcast, which you may be watching right now. We urge you to please subscribe to our channel. It is free to do so, but it helps us out so much.
And the likes are really important to you guys.
Liking individual episodes.
Engagement.
You can rate our podcast over on Spotify. That would be really helpful as well. A 5 would be preferable there. And then, of course, if you like a particular episode, or if you're just really into our musings on vintage styles and film locations, don't forget to share with like-minded friends, because we're trying to grow our viewership.
And, coming out of the holidays, January being a time when people don't have a lot of money left from spending too much during the holidays, it's a perfect time to check out the entire podcast and check out,
Knots Landing on
Landing
Flex TV or any
season
of
1.
Their streaming services.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we're waiting for Val and Lily Mae to get out of the supermarket, but we're at the Knollwood Plaza, which is where Valine did a lot of her grocery shopping.
I don't know if you remember, but back in the Land of the Free, episode 7, which we did the watch along, this is where Karen and Val came out of the market and they ran into music again. In that watch along, we were nibbling on some of Valine's fritters from 45 years ago, but actually they were from Winchell's. Now, our friend Diane Letulier, she provided us with a recipe of Valine's fritters from her book titled Knots Landing Recipes and Memories. We had hoped to talk to her in our podcast for Courageous Convictions, which was kind of focusing on John Plachette, who is the cast's resident chef, but we had to reschedule. So we're going to have that for you here now, an interview with Diane Letulier. She is the writer and compiler of the book Knots Landing Recipes and Memories, as well as the creator and moderator of the Facebook group Knots Landing Chronicles.
Bon appetit.
Welcome, Diane Letulier, to Seaview Circle. We're so excited to have you here today to talk about your book and talk about Knots Landing in general. We want to ask you, how were your holidays?
Oh, the holidays have been great so far. I have family in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I have family here in Burbank and Culver City and Venice. So we went to my brother's for Thanksgiving, and he fried a turkey. It was brilliant. Like, we do that every year. That's a Cajun tradition. And it was great.
Now, the funny thing is that although we've never officially met face to face here, we have actually been in the same location at the same time. Did you know that, Doug?
Yes, I think you had said we went Oscars.
Oh.
A couple of years ago to see the ladies of Knots Landing.
So you guys went 2 years ago? I went 5 years ago, and then the 2 years ago one.
Well, I'm trying.
I want to say it was 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know how it is with COVID. I lost a lot of time.
Who knows? Who knows what year it was?
Beautiful memories.
Yes. So I guess we wanted to get started. Just if you want to just let us know a little bit about yourself and how you came to work on this book.
Okay, so I was born and raised in the Los Angeles area. I lived in Burbank from like 1976 till about 1994. And then I moved to Thousand Oaks. I followed a girlfriend out here. She and her husband moved out here. We've known each other since middle school, but I loved the Thousand Oaks area. It was too expensive for me to move up into a slightly better home in Burbank. So I fell in love with it out here. And a lot of homes with fireplaces like that around where I live. And
We're jealous. We're jealous.
so I'm a bookkeeper by trade. I was in business management for many years. That's how I met my husband, my kid's father. We had a lot of very famous actors and actresses. We also had Sam Behrens, who played Danny.
Oh, yes, yes.
And Charlene Tilton was one of our
Oh,
clients.
cool.
Such a sweetheart. We had a lot of really fun, very high profile. The music people were very nice. There were a couple actors, no mean actors, but there were a couple actresses that were hard to handle. But it was such a fun job. And then I went on my own, and I've had my own business since 94 because I just needed to make my own hours and started having kids and stuff. And my mom still lives in Burbank, so does my brother. I have 2 children. My son Aaron's 30 and my daughter Emily's 26. And I have 1 granddaughter. And she's
congratulations.
my life. She's 4. She's a hoot. She's actually, her name is Melrose, and so she's named after the street Melrose because my son and daughter-in-law like to shop on Melrose, but we call her Melly. So
cute.
she's a hoot, and we have a lot of fun. I've been kind of milking my college career, like my whole adult life. I went back to school a couple years before COVID, and right when COVID hit, I got my bachelor's degree.
Oh,
and
cool.
I was kind of sad. Of course, we were sheltered and sheltering in, and I didn't get to walk. But they had a cute ceremony for us, and I went to Cal State Channel Islands. I was like the old lady on campus with my computer bag. That was super fun.
So switching over to the concept of our podcast, obviously we've been covering season 1 of Knots Landing. We wanted to ask you, what first got you into Knots Landing? Did you watch it as a child, or was that something that came later? And tell us about your journey watching the show.
Okay, so my journey was that my mother was a Dallas fan, and I didn't really watch Dallas much when it first aired, maybe an episode here and there with my mom. But then I had heard about this spinoff, and I don't remember what got me to start watching it, but I did watch from the beginning.
Okay.
I think I'm 62, so
what? No way.
so I'm just aging myself. But I think so in 1979, however old I was, I think I was like 16. 17 years old. I know I was like finishing high school.
You were Diana's age.
Yeah, yes. He's 62 too. Yes. Claudia and I have talked about this. So I just I watched it when it originally aired. I remember all these different emotions, like when we thought that Gary Ewing had been shot, and Sid, all of that. I remember how I felt when those first were on, and I just loved it. And so then it was on years later, it was on Soap Channel. And, I watched that as much as I could. And just something about it. I just have been absolutely in love with it. My favorite show ever.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is there a certain character on Knots Landing that kind of resonates with you? Like, was there any particular one where you feel like, okay, they're part of me, or very similar?
Well, funny you should ask, because I think maybe women who are true fans like me and some of my friends in the groups, like kind of like on Sex and the City, are you like a Miranda, or are you a Charlotte? Are you a Carrie? Well, like, are you a Valine? Are you a Karen? Are you an Abby? Like, come on, who are you? So I'm so in love with this trilogy of these women, and felt like I admired different things in them, like how hard Valine loved, like she wore her heart on her sleeve, and just like we all know the stuff that she went through. So just the hard love that she gave her man. She was in Al-Anon, or I don't know how much of an Al-Anon program she practiced, but she had a husband who had a drinking problem. I've been in the recovery world on the Al-Anon side, so I know what that's like. I love that they had recovery and AA and addiction aspects in the show. And then with Abby, I mean, the makeup and the hair. I mean, I remember I used to work for my grandfather downtown, and I remember the hair. I've always been a brunette, but I had that same cut.
Oh yeah.
And then I did the makeup video. I had the under eye like lightener, and the smudgy eye, the smoky eye look.
Remember she said.
Absolutely. So I just loved her style. I saw on Melrose, Fred Siegel. Like, I spotted one of the necklaces she wore on the show. A friend of mine made some of the jewelry on the show. I wore the shoulder
cool.
and the chunky jewelry, and But she was a fierce businesswoman.
Yes.
She was a single mom, and she didn't let the male world of sometimes when it's hard on women in the business world. Like, I admired that in her, and I liked her sassiness and the whole thing with Galveston, like, don't call me Cookie, and you might think we belong barefoot and pregnant, but I liked that aspect because I've been a single mom for many years and had my own business, and came up against a lot of obstacles. So I love that too. And then Karen, I mean, always trying to do the right thing, always just like, what's the next right thing to do? And always like forensically trying to figure stuff out. And I see a lot of myself in her too. My daughter lost her passport really quick in Switzerland at the top of a mountain. And who found the passport from LA County and with Lost and Found and research and forensics and all my Swiss and German friends, me.
That's
So,
great.
that reminded me of different journeys that Karen went on, trying to figure stuff out. So,
I guess it's
No,
safe to
that's
say
great.
you've been influenced by all the women of Knots Landing.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. And, even Lisa Hartman, when I wasn't really thrilled with how they styled CG, but I loved how they styled Kathy with the one earring and the bright colors and the pastels. And I would go to the California Mart downtown and look for all those fashions because we all wore that stuff. The desert look with the scarves and then the pastel with the one earring. Like that was me. I lived that era.
I love it. I love it.
When we see like the styles from that
We're
period
trying to
too,
wear our Mac McKenzie sweaters
I
today,
always
actually.
wonder, like, I'm
I
always
see.
looking for keep thinking when I go out to some club or something, I'm going to see some girls with the big hair. Like, I mean, to me, I'm like sitting here going like, hello, kids. This look
Yeah.
should be coming back for sure.
Exactly.
It's super
Yes.
hot.
I have to say, we've been talking about this a lot because I watched it when I was a kid, and I think as you get older, you relate to different storylines and different characters. And so maybe when I first watched it, I definitely saw Abby as like, a villain. But now as I'm older, I can see in her the same things you're just discussing. And so I
Right.
appreciate her more and see that, there's that whole storyline, obviously, with Val's babies. And I remember Donna Mills saying how she didn't ever want to be, officially responsible for that because she felt it would really harm her character if that was the case. And because she didn't see herself as a villain necessarily, she just saw herself as a strong woman, and she was. And I think she was
Right.
fiercely protective of her children as well. And that's something that is admirable. Yeah, I think for us, we're seeing different things as we rewatch it again with closer eyes, different things that, we relate to as adults now.
And
Right.
for me, I was
Exactly.
actually very late to the game. I didn't actually start seeing it until Brady and I started going out. So I think it was one of the first programs that in the early 2000s.
Wow.
Those might have been bootleg.
They might have been bootleg.
That's okay. We do what we have to do,
Yeah, I
right?
know. So anyway, I remember him going, "Oh, this like let's watch." And I think that was the first time around that I saw it. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast too, but I was the same age as Michael, and I grew up in the Valley, and so and I know all the locations. It's very close to where I grew up, so that's where I really love.
Diane, we were just on
everything
the
about it.
cul-de-sac yesterday filming like our little intro to this episode.
great.
And it was exactly what Ted and Joan were saying in the commentary, how when they were filming on the cul-de-sac, they have to stop and start
Oh,
stop
the
and start
planes.
because the planes are going over like
For
one a
Burbank.
minute.
Burbank Airport or Van Nuys.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk more.
Yeah, back to Knots Landing. I was going to ask is there any particular storyline or anything that kind of gave you like a long-lasting impression that you or something that maybe you tell your friends who haven't seen it? What about it makes it one of your favorite shows of all time?
There's so many wonderful storylines, and this is a very precious memory to me. So 2 years ago, when Oscars had their meet and greet, I sat at this wonderful long table with these fabulous guys. I brought a bunch of the cookbooks too. I was just like, I had to order some extra ones, and I was just like strategically like meeting people. It was a meet and greet, but
Sure.
it was beautiful. So they did questions and answers from the audience, and I had my moment. Like I'm so passionate about this. I'm comfortable talking to you guys, but like in a setting like that, with I don't know any of those people and just being nervous, I raised my hand and I talked about the scene where Valeen's about to marry Ben, and Gary shows up and he's like, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" And that scene, I got to talk about that, what that meant to me, like the love of Gary and Valine that was like just
It was
timeless
heartbreaking
intense
moment.
and
Yeah.
heartbreaking. And I've never watched a television show where there's been that to me that much chemistry and that much emotion about these two people. Like you forget that they're not really a couple in real life. And you know, as actors, they loved each other. And I got to say all this. And I recited this scene where he's like, kisses her hand. He's like, I hope you'll be happier than you've ever been in your life. And every time I watch that, I get choked up. And Joan is on the stage and Michele and Donna and Joan's like, that is so sweet. And she goes, I'm going to tell Ted what you said. And but to be able to say that and have everybody in the audience just get it, anybody that really watched, just they knew what I was saying. So that was a really big, I love that scene. So many wonderful scenes come to mind. The apple fritter scene from season one. I was literally just on the phone with my son. He was excited I'm doing this today. And I told the story that led up to the apple fritters, where Lily Mae's there and Valine's mad. And she's like, "Ew, don't make those fritters. Make this chocolate mousse crap from this cookbook." And nobody liked it. And people were sneaking into the kitchen to eat the fritters. And then this other scene, which was some of Joan's finest acting, where she's having a flashback in the kitchen about how Lily Mae wouldn't let her in with Lucy. And then she kind of comes back to in the kitchen and she's screaming, "Mom!" And that acting, that she's such a fine actress. That struck a huge note in season one.
Oh yeah, that was.
Is that your
stunning.
favorite? Do you think that's your favorite moment out of season one? Because obviously, out of
I
all,
think so. It's season one's not my go-to thing when I watch over and over again, but I did recently watch from the beginning, and that one really was my favorite, is when they're with the fritters. I mean, and you like you wonder like who really catered that, because the cast was like eating these things, and but just her acting and just where the budding of the relationship between Valine and Lily Mae, like how Lily Mae redeemed herself, and and just like prim and proper, like, okay, Mama, here, let me go make up the guest room. Like she was trying to be a good daughter, even though she hated her mother.
Yeah.
That's, to me, stood out the most from season one.
Yeah, I think that was a very complex moment of the season. And again, also something that is very relatable, because obviously family is such a strong bond. No matter, what do they say? You don't have to like them. You love them, but you don't have to. And this,
Right.
you can tell that Valley does not like her throughout this episode, but there is that moment in the end where she cradles herself in her mama's lap, and it's very sweet. So
Yes.
we, having not seen this probably in about 6 or 7 years, I've seen it like maybe 3 times in total, or maybe 4. We're almost like watching it with new eyes. So we're just so excited to see Julie Harris come back. I can't remember exactly what it is, but we're just really looking forward to that.
Well, I mean, I think part of the thing for me too is I remember when we watched this, at least when I watched everything a second time through, we did watch it through COVID, because it was just like the perfect.
Who didn't?
Yeah. So I think that's what's.
But it was the latter half, I think, at that point. During COVID,
maybe.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, you know how it is when you start binging.
Yeah.
You're not paying attention to every single moment either.
Right.
So sometimes, or maybe you're having like some wine or something and it's
Right.
getting late. I really enjoy doing the podcast just because you can really focus on each episode. I'm getting so much more out of it than just watching 10
I love that. I love that you guys are doing this. It's brilliant.
So now tell us about your Facebook group, the Knots Landing Chronicles. How did that come about? When did you decide to create that community?
There's several groups for Knots Landing now, but mine cultivated. I just wanted to have a group of my own that I could lead in a direction where I thought it would be fun to take it. I helped my friend Laura start a group called Just Like Old Times as well, I think before Chronicles. And so, we collaborated, we helped that group be what it is today. It's also an exceptional group. I just wanted something of my own that I could make decisions on. And, you can't have too many Knots Landing groups on Facebook. There's a lot of great ones. What's so beautiful is in growing this group, I want to say it was maybe 5 years. It had to have been maybe, because the Oscars was 5 years ago. So maybe 8 years now.
Okay.
I think I forgot to look to see when I started the group, 7 or 8 years. And there was different times, different ways to watch the show, and so much fun to be had with posting different things. And during COVID, when I made the cookbook, and before that, I made a Man of Knots Landing calendar. I couldn't find it.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
I want to see that.
Yeah, I need to make another one, but I think it's probably like a 3-year-old calendar now, but that was really fun to make. So rolling forward to now that it's finally streaming, which was such a long time in coming, and people only being able to watch it, like either clips of it, or if you bought DVDs from someone or whatever, quality good or bad, you've got to watch. So now, excuse me, that it's been streaming on Plex and now Amazon, it's a miracle. Like I can't even believe it.
Do you
And
see
to
like
me,
a huge growth in the amount
yes,
of
yes, a
numbers?
huge
That's
growth.
great.
But the best of times, which to me, it's just this warm, comfy, cozy feeling was when it was only streaming back to back live on Plex. And it was this giant, wonderful watch party where people are like, I have to call in sick because I was up until 4 in the morning and I couldn't stop. What am I going to do? I think I'll call in sick another day. I can't stop watching. But this communal family of Knots Landing viewers who just, we're all in the same place watching the same episodes. That was fantastic. There were thousands of people doing that. So it's a very busy moderating job now, where before it wasn't so much. We have, rules about not bashing the actors, and so we keep a close eye on that to make it like safe for everyone, no matter what type of viewers there are. We don't allow any type of bashing of the actors, which is like, why would people do that? But they do.
Well, people
So,
are so weird when they get on the internet. Let's face
yes,
it.
they
Like,
are.
they can
And
be
so
anonymous, and they just feel like they can say
exactly.
whatever they
So
want to say.
we don't allow anonymous posting in the group. Like, why would anybody need to post anonymously unless they had something not nice to say?
Right.
But the other side of it is we have so many viewers now that there's new viewers who hadn't watched maybe in 30 years or whatever, or viewers who've never watched, who there's just, there's a mentality on Facebook sometimes, sadly, where there's a lot of negativity and a lot of complaining about Plex, complaining about the commercials, complaining about Lily May, complaining about Diana constantly. So we try to like steer it in a fun direction where we don't have a lot of redundant, same type of complaining. You could kind of spot the people that are not really embracing the show, who are like making fun of it, who are like not really a fan, versus people who were like, leave Diana alone already. You
Yeah.
need to understand a toxic mother-daughter relationship. I mean, just whatever. So there's interesting challenges to running the groups.
Well, we thank you for
Yeah.
all the work that you do, because it is so great to have a community where people can go and they can talk about their favorite things about the show. And yeah, people are going to have differences of opinion. That is just natural. But it's good that you're also looking out and protecting. Because, here's our take on it with, say, the problematic characters who people, don't like or whatever. I mean, they're there for the drama. They're there to create, and life is not, a bowl of
yes,
cherries all the time.
I
You
can
gotta
hate
have
the character, but I don't have to hate the actor. I can love
right.
the
I mean,
actor.
we're
They're
watching
great
season
job.
1 right now, and obviously Richard is like, I would say, the villain, if you will, if there is a villain in
Yes.
season 1. But we absolutely adore John Plachette, and we really actually kind of like the character of Richard too. Like we've said in our some of our conversations, like we'd probably be friends with him. I mean, I wouldn't marry him, but
He's a great guy. I emailed a couple times with John Plachette. He gave me a recipe to have in the book, or I asked permission. Can I use? I forget which it was, because he has a food blog. He is a chef.
yeah,
He has a
yeah.
brilliant blog. When they did Daniel storyline, he was so thrilled that he got to keep those pots and pans and that cookware from the
Oh
kitchen,
my God. Well,
because he probably helped pick all those props out.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess the segue too, I was going to ask you, what encouraged you to the idea of compiling and creating the recipe book from, actors on Knots Landing? Was there like any particular episode?
So just leading into that, there's a picture. I have my own little copy here. There's a picture on the cover in the middle bottom where Richard brings breakfast to Karen,
Okay.
because Sid just had his accident. There was that side to Richard where he, like she sat in the wheelchair and started crying, and he brought her fresh orange juice and croissant.
I always liked their relationship, Richard and Karen.
Yes,
I
and
thought
she
it
was very protective of him.
Yeah.
And I love that. So I don't even remember what prompted me, but I was, I love the cooking. I love food aspects in TV shows. So the cooking aspect, where that homey going on in the kitchen, whether it's Karen and Mac making dinner, whether it's
Speaking of which,
always having breakfast. Oh, you should. Oh, that's awesome. Look at you.
well, I'm wearing, this was a present from Brady to me a few.
I love it. Just the food aspects of the show, that, Valine and her mama being in the kitchen, and then Valine being up at 3 a.m. when she couldn't sleep making those fritters, and Mac and Karen and the boys would sit down and have dinner every night. It's like, I don't think I don't remember if I ever made dinner every day. My parents did, but just, I'm like, I got to do something with the food, and just different ideas that started circulating with characters who maybe had nothing to do with food, but who
I think my favorite in the book might be the Olivia, give me the keys, key lime pie.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that, like little themed stuff about that. They didn't donate a recipe, but I thought, here's what I'm going to do. Paul Karafotis, who
Yes.
I met at the second Oscars. We've been friends for a while, but I finally got to meet him. He donated a couple recipes.
I'm
He's a
very
good- he's a
intrigued by
great
that
cook.
banana bread.
And
Yeah.
yes.
I want to
And
make that one. I was
Looks
looking
good.
through and I get
Looks
hungry
good.
thinking about it.
yeah, I'm not sure how we met, just on social media, I guess. I'm not, he joined one of the Knots groups or something, but we became friends. He writes wonderful children's books. His son is an accomplished baseball player, and he sings, and Paul's still acting. He was recently in Tulsa Kings. But he writes these wonderful children's books, and it's a nonprofit. So I help him get the word out there. And then I got to meet him a couple years ago in Palm Springs. That was great. I got to meet his lovely wife, Tony. And then Joan Van Art, I don't want to give away too much of the book, because it's so cute, some surprises in there, but she does not cook. And so she made a silly post about toast or something. And I'm like, okay. But then because she doesn't cook, I did the apple fritters. I made it about her character. So, and I could have gone on with more things that I thought of course, after the book was done, but I wanted to get it out.
I wanted to ask you about the artwork and the images. How did you go about making those choices? Like, there's that great illustration of Gary, and then one of my favorite photos that you included. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Is of Laura, because I don't know if you can see it. The
gosh,
the Laura eye roll is one of my favorites.
Yes.
So I was glad to see that in there.
But the artwork, was, some of the pictures were not really good quality digitally, so I had to kind of play around with different stuff. But I just gleaned through the episodes or online looking for episodic pictures that had something to do with food in it. Like anytime Lily May's giving Valine something to taste, or like the Kiss the Cook scene, where Mac's doing kind of like this big kind of screw you to Anne. Like Kevin Dobson loved to barbecue for his family, and he would carve names in the hot dogs. And he has a real he had, rest his soul, a white Kiss the Cook apron, but he loved cooking. So after he passed away, his wife Susan, I reached out to her. We were already friends on Facebook. We have mutual friends, and she gave me his sauerkraut recipe. But he was a real family man who loved barbecuing for his family. So that was fun that they were creative and they worked things like that into the episodes, like Richard with Daniel and like Kevin with his barbecue.
I think that's so much part of what makes Not Something feel so grounded all the time are those moments, like even like that moment. I think I can't remember what episode it is, but where Val and Lily May they're doing Lily May's hair. Is that right? In the kitchen?
And that's iconic. I mean, that to me is like it's like, to me, that scene is like a warm blanket.
Yeah.
Like, and she's still getting over Ben or something, and then she like, what's the line? Tell me no secrets, I'll tell you no liar.
Yes.
Valine's laughing, and she hasn't gotten to laugh in a while, and just that scene, like giving your mama a perm in the kitchen sink, so like normal, and like, just your neighbors are doing a perm over there. It just feels like you belong as part of that group of families.
So, do you cook in real life, in your home life, or like what's?
Oh yes. My mom was like still kind of a gourmet cook. And when I was in 7th grade, when we used to have home ec and sewing, well, the home ec version, I made cannelloni, a really complicated recipe, and I remember getting an A on it. So I'm like, if I can do this, so I've always really loved cooking and kept a lot of my grandmother and my great aunts, like really nostalgic old Jewish recipes. And so I'm grateful that we have those, that we can keep those recipes going in the families. So yes, I love to cook and love to bake.
I'm more of the cook and he's more of the baker.
Yeah.
So I like to create stuff, and I'm always just like, bringing it out, like, oh, this is like,
you're good with like
cooking challenge or whatever.
He's good with like taking whatever ingredients are in the house and then constructing something that's really interesting out of that. So,
well, it's always a game, that's the way I look at it.
I agree. And so for me, the apple fritter recipe to me stands out as a favorite because I have a thing with apple fritters. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a time at Disneyland in New Orleans
Oh
Square
yeah, I totally
when
remember.
the apple fritters were like the size of a baseball,
Mm-hmm.
and they had custard inside the fritter. They like injected it in there with some kind of pastry thing. So since they're not like that anymore and they're different and you dip it in the custard, but so like I have a apple fritter like kind of obsession going back to the old school Disneyland days. Like who doesn't love apple fritters and just the way they made it sound in the episode like and I was studying the recipe the other night too like I need to make these.
Do you have any pointers at all in regards to that?
Well, I know that you have to get your oil. It's like certain kinds of oil are better than others. Peanut oil cooks at a higher heat. That does really well. Not everybody like it's expensive.
Yeah.
People get peanut oil to fry their turkeys for Thanksgiving, but it's a very high heat, non-smoking oil. And you don't want to put your dollops of your batter in unless your oil's hot enough. You want to make sure you have it at the right temperature. So.
All right, peanut oil. I wrote it
Peanut
down.
oil.
So, Diane, going back to the book and just in general, where can people find you and where can people find the book? Well, minus the quasi Santa in a blue shirt. Okay.
Oh. Okay, so on the back of the book is my Knots Landing Chronicles @ symbol, Knots Landing Chronicles. So I'm on Instagram. There's the Knots Landing Chronicles on Facebook. Most of the Knots Landing groups I'm an admin in, so people are free to message me that way. The book's still available, and I do ship overseas. Sometimes there's a sale, and I can offer less for shipping. But people have bought it from Germany and England and France, and
I think what's awesome about it is not only is it something that you can use to make fantastic food, but it really does spur the memories. I mean, that's the title, right? Recipes of Memories. So you will see this and be like, oh, right, I remember this storyline or this character or this relationship. And I think you did a really good job.
Thank you so much. And I was lucky enough to get a response because I got the book to most of the cast members. And when Ted Shackelford saw his page with that cartoon, I have to say some of those cartoons, James Gierzak, I'm so sorry, James, if I'm not saying your name right. He's the brilliant man behind these illustrations. Ted Shackelford, that laugh, that laugh, he laughed so hard, Joan said, when he saw that page with his shirtless cartoon. So to get the reactions from the cast was very, very special to me that they were able to see that and enjoy it and get a chuckle out of it.
Well, it's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today and talking about the book. It's been a really pleasure. And you have a lot of great stories and a lot of great memories to share about the show. So thank you
so much. I just want to say really quick that I thank you guys who are brilliant. And we hung in there with each other to get this done. And thank all the people that helped make the Knots Landing groups what they are. And the teams couldn't do it without them. And they know who they are. And they're all wonderful, passionate people like us about our knots.
For sure. All right, well, take care and have a great new year.
Yes,
and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. And much success, continued success with the book as well.
Thank you so much.
Diane Letulier, and she is the editor, compiler, writer of Knots Landing, and this is Recipes and Memories, and also moderator and creator of the Facebook group Knots Landing Chronicles. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you, guys.
All right, take care.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Now, if you've been watching our podcast this season, you know we always like to take deep dives into a specific production aspect or maybe provide a bio of a fan fave cast member. This is the segment we call Untying the Knot. But this time out, we're going to untie the knot, basically, of our podcast. So we are going to be sharing with you, these are burning questions, final thoughts. These are questions that you and I have wrote for each other.
Yeah.
Or they're viewer questions that you guys have sent in over on, well, actually, it's a kind of a combination from YouTube and over on Instagram as well. Now, caveat to that, sometimes if like you wrote a question that's very similar to a viewer question or vice versa, or we both wrote a question that was similar, I kind of combined them a little bit. So you'll see that in the questions. But we have them here in our trusty little peanut butter.
Oh, yes. The peanut
butter jar from Let Me Count the Ways.
And I want to say one thing. Peanut butter. Let me count the ways.
So this is going to be, hopefully, fast round of questions. I don't know how many there are. There might be like 20. I'm not sure.
You think this is going to be fast?
Yeah. Have you seen our podcast?
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to take a while.
But this is really our chance to really go back and review the season and the things we liked about it. And to refresh our own memory, we do have a little cheat sheet in front of us.
Oh, good.
So we can kind of remember. All right, so let's start. You want to You want to start this off?
Sure.
Oh,
Oh God,
exploding.
that's like a magic thing.
It's exploding.
Well, it's just
It's like the Jack in the Box from
just
when Gary was in
jumped
rehab.
out at me. Okay, the first question is, and it says viewer question,
Viewer
VQ.
question, yeah, VQ.
Viewer question. I joined in on your channel just last week and am playing catch up. How come there's no recap for the Land of the Free episode? Well, let me tell you something.
There
is.
There is.
But what happened is, I guess because we might have showed a little bit too much of the show.
It was pulled.
Yeah, it was
the
pulled.
episode was pulled in the United States. I think it is still available outside of the United States.
Yeah.
And I am going to kind of maybe retweak it and edit it to take out the offending part
Yeah.
for the copyright.
So it will be going back up.
It'll come back up probably sometime in January. So be patient. And thank you for that question.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up. What was the most outrageous scene that stands out to you in season 1?
One of the things that really, really stuck with me was, I mean, it's a dramatic scene. It's that whole thing with Laura in The Lie when she kind of breaks down. I don't know if that's outrageous, but it was really like, ugh, gut-wrenching.
When
you know?
she was talking to
Richard.
Val. Oh,
No, when she was talking to Richard and she was just broken.
okay.
And talking about, it was like after she had been raped.
Okay.
And it was like, but she, didn't really want to talk about it.
Right. I remember.
But that to me was like super gut wrenching. And I mean, obviously there's a lot of memorable scenes, but that to me was a strong one.
I would say for me, outrageous is also, it's also a Laura scene. But I remember saying this. This was in episode 2. When JR comes to visit and there's that whole thing with the Chip Todson or whatever. That scene shocked me because I did not expect that. It was when Laura came to meet Chip Todson and she was really doing it for Richard.
Yeah, that was outrageous.
Richard had asked her to meet with him because they had some past that he didn't know about, right? Richard didn't know the details. He asks Laura to go meet with this guy so that maybe he can get him an introduction to J.R. Ewing, and she sleeps with him.
Well, you want to know something? I guess maybe in general.
That was our first addition to the Scutsy scorecard.
Another outrageous moment is in that episode is towards the end when she asks the gentleman for the light of the cigarette. So I think what it is
that
is,
was back in The Lie.
that's what I'm saying is that whole thing about Laura,
Secret life.
her secret life, and that's what was always like outrageous because I just didn't expect her to be that way because she comes across so sweet and innocent,
Right.
and she's
she's definitely, I would say,
she's got some depth
kind
to
of the
her
most
character.
interesting character on the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I love her.
All right, you want to do the next?
Yeah, sure.
question?
Okay. What surprised you the most about Knots Landing season 1 this time around? Now that you are watching specifically for the purpose of the podcast.
I would say for me, what surprised me the most was the quality of the writing. And we mentioned in the last episode where we revealed the overall brow meter score of the season was 3.75. I think in watching it with this like closer lens, it made me realize how well crafted it was throughout the entire season. And even though there are standalone episodes, right, where it's like tied up and it's like almost like a little mini movie, I do feel like David Jacobs' original idea of this kind of scenes from a marriage, you can see that play out in all these different episodes. And so I think that the quality of the writing, even down to every single line.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say.
Was surprising to me.
Yeah, when we talked about, we even had this little side discussion recently. I remember we said that every line has a purpose.
Yeah.
There's no really
dead weight.
No dead weight. Every line is
And
super important.
That could be in reference to the episode with, Ginger and the stalkers. It could be in reference to Karen, when she is having that dilemma about whether or not to have this baby late in life, or obviously all the stuff with Gary and his alcoholism. I mean, they just really did a great job.
Very good job, guys.
Of kind of delivering that original concept of what David Jacobs wanted through all these different episodes. Okay, which house on the cul-de-sac do you think has the best home decor?
Oh, well, of course, Kenny and Ginger's,
You think?
for me, from my style, I love all the 70s,
Okay, here's
super
the thing.
70s,
I do like
and the recording equipment.
I love the recording equipment, as I
those
mentioned.
big pillows.
I love the big pillows. I do think it's that's where the vibe you want to hang out. But from a decor standpoint, I think it's kind of boring. Like, if you go into Kenny and Ginger's bedroom, we've seen it a couple times, there's not even anything on the wall.
What do you like the Fairgate house then, I guess?
Well, yeah, I do think the Fairgate living room is probably the biggest standout.
What about
right?
the best bedroom? Diana's bedroom?
No, I think it's the Averys. I think the Avery bedroom.
They do have
that wallpaper.
I gotta say, the Averys have the best patio.
They do.
That's the best patio.
Now, what about the best kitchen?
Maybe it's Valeen's kitchen.
I think it's Valeen's kitchen.
I guess you can't really answer that question completely. They're all different. So I'll pick one now here. Who on the cul-de-sac do you have the most affinity with, character-wise? Who would you be friends with? And which character is your polar opposite?
Oh gosh, this is hard to answer because you're revealing things about your character.
Okay.
I suppose it's easier for me to say who I feel are opposites. So for me, I would say the opposites for me are definitely Gary and Val. Don't really feel any connection to them personally. Maybe it's just their background. Maybe it's just how they deal with problems. Whereas I think like Karen, obviously that would be an easy fit. I think that I really appreciate Richard's sense of humor, so I would totally hang out with him. Like, I wouldn't be married to him.
No.
And then even Kenny and Ginger, we'd party, but I don't know that we'd be close friends necessarily with Kenny or Ginger maybe. And then Sid, of course, we've talked about this where we kind of wish that we were friends with Sid, but maybe we're not nice enough.
No, I think, and then for me, I was thinking who do I have the most affinity with character-wise? I think it's a little weird because I think I've got a cross between Karen and Richard, if that makes any sense.
You're Richard so much.
Well, sometimes,
yeah.
I like to party.
Yeah,
and, it got that kind of and it's a little, I'm not a snake.
I
but,
definitely see Karen definitely in
Karen.
you. And I actually do see some Sid in you too.
Oh, a Sid. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you very much. What about I would be friends? Well, I would be friends with everybody, as you know, because I'm friendly with everybody.
Right.
But I would love to be friends with the Averys. I mean, it'd be fun to go hang out there.
Me too. I agree. I feel like that house is the house that
and Valeen would be a good friend. I like Val.
Of course, Val would be a good friend. I just feel like maybe her approach to things is not the same as mine. So
and I would agree. I'm a polar opposite of Gary.
Yeah, me too.
I just don't really relate. But I enjoy watching him. It doesn't, but I just think in my life I'm not.
Same.
Yep.
Same. Okay, next up. Who do you think was the most underused main character this season? In other words, who did you feel you wanted to see more from?
It's going to be the same answer, isn't it?
I don't know.
Diana.
Oh! Yeah. Okay.
Claudia Lano.
Yeah. I would agree. I do feel like she definitely was missing.
She's always a scene stealer too.
Episodes.
Yeah, but I mean, when she is on, she's great. Every line is.
I'm actually going to say something
fantastic.
a little controversial here because we all kind of all season long said it was like justice for Ginger. We need more Ginger, but I feel like as the season progressed, we definitely got more Ginger. So she's definitely not the one that I would choose for this answer. But I'm going to actually say Valeen was the person that I feel was kind of underused this season. Yeah, she came in bringing the show from Dallas over to Knots Landing, and yes, she had these great moments with Annie in that first episode, and yes, of course, she had the back-to-back with Mama coming to visit, Lily Mae, and then Lucy coming to visit, and then the stuff with Gary at the end, but I don't really feel that she had her own episode. When I choose those slides for the podcast on Spotify, I choose the main person that is in the episode, and she never made the cut.
Well,
except for the three sisters, which was the jump ahead.
But she's certainly going to make up for it in later seasons.
Absolutely.
So it's okay. There's going to be plenty of Valeen.
Yes.
Okay, next question. Oh, is it me?
I think it's you.
Okay, let's see. So far, what episode or segment was your favorite to record for the Seaview Circle podcast? Which episode was the most challenging? I mean, I really did love the watch-along. It was really fun for, both watch-alongs. You know, the Three Sisters and also
Land of the
Free. I loved that element because it just was... a different
I definitely
take
think
on
that
it.
these Three Sisters was super easy breezy to film. That was a really good flow, I think, and it was fun to just have the room different for Halloween. And then, of course, we went to see the actual house as well, which I think is always
That
fun
was
to kind
fun.
of get out into the real world. So yeah, I would agree that was a lot of fun. I also really liked, just as more from an editing standpoint, I really had fun putting together like the suspect board for the episode with Ginger, with the stalker, which ended up being her ex-boyfriend's mother, and then challenging.
Well, I know which one was challenging. They might not know which one is challenging.
I don't know if you knew this, but in the last episode that we did, it was meant to go all the way through. It was meant to be one long episode where we covered part 1 and part 2 of Bottom of the Bottle. But what happened is we recorded them on 2 different days, but it was supposed to look seamless. And unfortunately, when we recorded the second half, the audio, something was wrong with it where it dropped like every 7th word or whatever. It was so bad that Doug and I actually had to go back and record little bits and pieces of the entire episode, and then I had to stitch them together. That was our way of thinking, oh, that's better than just re-recording the whole thing.
Well, if we
over.
re-recorded the whole thing, we would have lost, I
We would have
think,
lost a lot of the energy.
spontaneity.
So instead, we had to re-record and re-perform.
And it was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare. So that was the most challenging episode, was the last episode, and that's why it did not come out.
You know what I was
same
going to
night.
say, too? The first episode was also challenging because we were working out all the kinks. And
Yeah.
obviously that one wasn't a visual, but
Right.
it was still different equipment and all that kind of stuff. So the first and the last.
All right. Next up, we have. Do you have, this is a viewer question, do you have any Cosmic Steeple records lying around?
Oh, I wish. I mean, we have thousands of records
Yeah.
here, but I don't have Cosmic Steeple, unfortunately.
I wonder where they came up with that name. What, in your mind, what do you think is the riff on that?
I think of it as some kind of like progressive rock band, like Van der Graaf Generator Man, or some kind of like Hawkwind. That's what I'm
Okay,
thinking of,
okay.
like Cosmic Steeple Man.
yeah.
It's cool. It's cool, man. Hippie stuff. Okay, let's see here. This question says, who is the best dressed character in season 1?
I know who the best dressed character is from here on out. But
I'm
season
giving it to
1.
Karen.
I think so too.
Yeah, I like how she changes her hair up all the time.
I think so
between
too.
the bunches and
I think she's got the most whimsical fashions.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. I do appreciate Val's look too, even though it's, again, so kind of like a polar opposite of like what I would wear, but I appreciate the continuity that they have throughout the season. I think she had said in one of the commentaries, Ted Shackelford was mentioning something about her, and he was like, oh yeah, you got the braids. She says, yeah, I had the braids every single
Oh, it's just
episode
like
in
Cindy
season
Brady.
1.
Poor Cindy Brady. Susan Olsen. She had to have the braids the whole entire, however, how many
Right,
seasons
every
that was.
All right. This is another viewer question, not a season 1 question, but what character from later seasons are you most looking forward to seeing when they make their debut?
Well, I mean, obviously, Abby. Hello. And also, Michelle Phillips, when she comes on, I'm just, I guess we just always like seeing the bad girls, don't we? And
I really do like Michelle Phillips as Ann Matheson. I know a lot of people are.
It's so
conflicted on her
weird. I
character.
told you the thing was when I first watched Knots Landing with Michelle Phillips, my whole thing is I'm a huge Mamas and Papas fan, but I didn't know that she was in this. So it was such a mind blower to see her, and I was like, "Wow, she's so good.
She's
She's
good.
really so talented."
Oh, we love her.
Yeah.
And we love Abby as well. Donna
Of
Miller.
course.
Oh my
I
God.
mean, like, I expected that I know that I would love her. But again, the thing of not knowing Michelle Phillips as an
I will
actress.
say this. I will say that, and maybe I'm saying this a little too early because she hasn't appeared yet on the show, but I remember the first time I watched Knots Landing, I think I was definitely more like team hero, team good guy watching it as a kid. And then watching it the last couple times with you, I'm like, oh, Abby is just.
And then I'd
she's
say for the
amazing.
male character, it's going to be Mac, baby. Mac.
Mac. Yeah,
Mac.
sure.
Oh, what a dude.
Sure, what a
I'm
dude.
going to be wearing a sweater that's very similar to something he would
Yes.
wear. I might wear it tonight. We'll see, depending on the temperature.
All right, next.
Okay, viewer question. Why do you think the cake at the beginning of Bottom of the Bottle says, "Good luck, Gary," as opposed to "Congratulations, Gary"? I feel like professionally, when you say good luck to someone, they're usually leaving their job for a better opportunity or greener pastures. That is interesting, isn't it? Maybe that was intended
I
as
think,
a bit of
yeah, it's like foreshadowing, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, what are you going to do with this now? You know, I don't know. It could be just like they asked for a cake, you know, and like that's what it came. But
They didn't get that cake from Baskin Robbins or the what do you call it, the Carvel, the cookie opus.
right. Yeah, I think I'm going to say it's foreshadowing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. This is, do you have a favorite storyline in season 1? What episode or storyline do you think best defines the overall tone of season 1?
That's a tricky one. That's very tricky.
Well, I'm going to keep going back to this episode a lot, probably, and this is kind of the inspiration for our peanut butter here. I really think that episode with David Crane, I think it's episode 3, Let Me Count the Ways, I think that was the best example of what David Jacobs' original intention was, like the scenes from a marriage, because, and I remember us saying that it could have been a standalone movie.
Yeah.
Because it's such an emotional, powerful thing that this character Karen is feeling at this age and how long she's been in this relationship. I just remember that feeling really, really powerful. And so I think that maybe the best example of the tone of what the season I think was originally intended to be. Now, that's not what ends up happening, I think, with the show as it continues on. Obviously, there are scenes from a marriage throughout, but in terms of what David Jacobs was imagining, I think that's a really good example. I'm not going to say that's necessarily my favorite episode, but I think it's the best example of the tone.
But what about now the episode where Karen got pregnant?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd say it's a similar vibe too, right? Again, it probably leans back into that original concept of the pilot, you know, before the pilot, sorry, the pre-pilot.
And the same one with Civil Wives as well.
Yeah.
Another Karen and Sid moment where the ex-wife comes and you're trying to kind of compete with that person. So I think all the kind of Karen storylines this season, there are those 3, may be kind of the best example of the tone. But my favorite storylines, again, kind of we've already discussed, would be maybe the Laura and Richard stuff, because to me it's the most intriguing and it is the most sort of challenging to the viewer.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on that one. We're getting down to the bottom of the barrel, bottom of the bottle,
bottom of the
peanut butter jar. Let me count the ways. Here we go again.
This knot is really loose now.
Viewer question: where do you think Alien and Music are today? Oh God, they are so popular. No, Alien and Music. Where are those guys?
I mean, I don't know that they're both still with us. I hope they are.
I think the one was still actually.
No, I don't mean the actors. I mean
you mean the characters? Yeah. The one's still hanging out in Venice.
Yeah.
You know, he's Venice Beach.
Yeah.
He's like he's probably an artist now, and he owns a very expensive loft that he bought in the mid-'80s.
Music or Alien?
Music.
Okay.
Music.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he bought a loft there like a long time ago, and then he probably rents it out. And,
I think Alien's in Vegas or something. You know what I mean? Like he's been on the move. You know what I mean?
Reno, maybe?
No.
Oh, okay.
Reno.
Reno would be maybe more.
That's where he is.
Okay.
Okay. Next up, which untying the knot segment was the most fun to investigate?
Oh, it was going to the house in Altadena for the Three Sisters episode.
Okay.
Because again, I like the location stuff. And actually, even when we went to Michael's restaurant too, that was really fun. So I like anything where you can get out of the studio and be live. Now, there are challenges when you're doing that because,
we need some lavalier microphones, people.
We need a cameraman.
Yeah.
When you go out and do that stuff.
Because right now our car, just the top of our car.
It's hard to do this on your own. Okay? Like, because they're filming
for
something.
For me, I really enjoyed putting together the discussion about the feng shui and the cul-de-sac, talking about the history of the cul-de-sacs. That was really fun. Something I wasn't really expecting to ever do in my entire life was research that topic. So that was the one that I enjoyed.
Oh, and I really enjoyed the Gerald Immel.
Right.
And learning about the Synclavier. You know, what was funny is the other day, I forget what record store we were at, but they had the demonstration disc of
how much was it?
It was like $40.
Oh,
it was
not
kind
too
of
bad.
Yeah, but I mean, I just felt like I don't want to spend $40 for a demonstration record right now. I'd rather find a deal on that one. But anyway, it was cool. That was, something I didn't know, which I expected that I should know that as somebody who's like a former recording artist and kind of DJ. I should know these things. I didn't know that. But, thank
Learn
God for
something
the internet.
new every day.
Yeah.
Okay, next up. Did you ever find out what the restaurant location was from the episode where Karen and her family celebrated her pregnancy? Are there any other standout locations in season 1 that you would want to visit or wish you could visit?
Well, we even reached out to one of the principal actors of the show who was in the scene, but they didn't get back to us. We kept thinking maybe they'd remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, they didn't get back to us.
So we don't know.
We don't know, but maybe somebody else. There's still time for you to figure that out.
Any other locations?
Well, I would say the Knollwood Country Club.
Yeah, I think that would be fun to go to.
Yeah.
Okay, who was your favorite guest star from season 1?
God, I'm going to forget the name, but I thought one of my favorite guest stars was Ginger's ex-boyfriend's mother. I thought she was really weird.
Yeah.
I liked her.
Mrs. Chadwick from Mrs. Chadwick's School for Girls.
I really liked seeing her, and she kind of was like, you thought she was sweet, but she was kind of creepy. I really enjoyed her.
If you really do a deep dive and think about that character, she is really creepy. Now, don't get me wrong, she probably had a lot of pain that she went through, right?
The other one that's really good is Sid's ex-wife, too. She was really intriguing.
She was really good. And I was going to say, back in that question about talking about the untying the knot segments, that was a really fun one to record and do some of the watching along, because it was Halloween, right? So we watched some of her other stuff that was really colorful and fun. So that was Claudette Nethens.
But what about
Priscilla Pointer?
Would you consider Julie Harris at this point a guest star, or would she a...
Okay, so this is a really...
Because she becomes a regular.
Really, 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 really good question that I have in general. I'm really curious because I would say that storyline, Will the Circle Be Unbroken, in a way is the most incongruous to the season.
Mm-hmm.
Even more so than Land of the Free in a way, because this character is so different and she's just a fish out of water.
And she just arrives and she leaves.
She leaves and she causes all this havoc. Now, obviously, it's a huge tie-in to Val's backstory and Gary's backstory, and of course Lucy as well. But the way the episode is, it's a real standalone, in my opinion. So I'm curious, do you think that she was only ever going to be a guest star, like because she and Joan Van Ark, Julie Harris and Joan Van Ark were friends and they had worked together in the Yale Conservatory?
Yeah, maybe they
just brought her on for that guest star.
Yeah.
And then, later on, they're like, maybe we can do more.
What about Lil Maggie?
We'll be on the lookout for Lil Maggie.
What about Lil Maggie? She's coming back?
But yeah, I would say if she never appeared again, Julia Harris would be the best because she is such a great actress.
Yeah, totally.
Based off of this viewing of season 1, which character from the main cast are you most intrigued to catch up with, moving forward into season 2? What else are you looking forward to in season 2?
I'm actually getting very excited about seeing more adventures of Valine. I mean, we kind of mentioned that before. You said you didn't feel like she had her moment, but we know she gets her moments.
Well, yeah. I'm not sure because, again, we haven't watched these seasons probably in 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, so I'm a little rusty on when things ramp up.
But I can't wait to see she starts writing that book.
Yes. Oh, I think that's still a few seasons away.
I don't know. I want to see that.
I'm just excited to see where she goes because, obviously,
I want to see Laura's character.
She's a very complex character, too.
After the events in that episode where she sort of takes agency in her marriage, I'm looking forward to seeing where that character goes. And then I guess in general, I mean, aside from Abby, which we already discussed, I am really looking forward to updating the Scutsy scorecard.
Oh, okay.
And maybe seeing how far is Karen's redometer pushed in season 2. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And of course, I think that the problems really start between Karen and Diana in season 2.
I think so.
I think it gets real heated.
It started.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I can't remember where it is. But anyway, excited about that.
Viewer question. When will you start covering the episodes for season 2?
Well, that will be in the new year, kids. I imagine in January would be a good time. We should start.
I think what I would like to do, this is maybe you don't listen right now. What I would like to do, Doug, is maybe record a bunch of them, all at once, and then start editing them separately, and then release them all so that I'm not feeling rushed or under a lot of stress. So, in other words, even if we're recording in January, you may not see them until March. I don't know. I don't want to.
Yeah, let's just see how it goes.
I want to make sure that we take our time.
There's a lot of moving parts,
yes.
Especially...
And we also might be covering other shows too. I don't know. We got to see. All moving parts. So just be patient. We will definitely get to it sometime in the first quarter, I would say, of 2025. All right, next. Getting down.
There's not too many left in this. Have you learned anything in season 1 that can benefit you in your personal life?
Don't drink to forget. Don't drink to forget.
Don't drink to forget.
I would say, going back to what we were saying earlier about the tone of the season and David Jacobs' original intention, I would say there's almost something to learn in every episode. There's a moment that, depending whatever character is the focus of that storyline, the challenges that they're going through have been relatable. I remember that was a word we used a lot in the first half of the season. It's so relatable. It's so relatable. Even though the show aired 45 years ago, these issues are still things that we are faced with, especially now that we're older.
Yeah.
Because when I first watched this as a child, I wouldn't have been able to relate to half of these things.
True.
So while maybe the Land of the Free didn't really have a lot where I'm going to be growing and changing, a lot of the other ones I definitely think had moments. I mean, I would say, looking at this right here, definitely the Let Me Count the Ways, that had a moment for me that really got me going. The Courageous Convictions definitely has some stuff that challenges you, right? Admitting your failures, admitting that you have dreams and not wanting to squash those dreams because they're important. They're what keep you going. Certainly Civil Wives. Obviously, we found out that was a very relatable issue, that you might have jealousy from a previous spouse.
Yeah.
The Lie is huge. I mean, that's a huge one that is, something that we haven't really got really deep into in discussing that episode or even this series as a whole. But obviously, in the last poll result as well, talking about Kenny and Ginger, this concept of infidelity and having affairs. And, no relationship is black and white. There's gray areas, and it's how everybody approaches that kind of stuff. And, Kenny didn't approach it a very good way. He just lied over and over and over again.
Bad boy.
And in a way, I suppose Laura and Richard are kind of lying to each other as well, right? Because he had the fling with Sid's ex-wife, Susan, while she was away.
And I would say, and then obviously some of this is a world that doesn't necessarily touch upon our world. It's the keeping up appearances of, with the neighbors and stuff like that. Like, we don't care. Yeah. I mean, and whatever. We're not part of that world, but I know people are.
We mentioned, we were talking about the episode Small Surprises. We are not mothers.
Yeah.
And we can't relate to that.
Except being cat dads, maybe. Maybe that's about the only thing.
Would you like to have another cat child?
You know what? I always feel like I'm going to have another cat child, whether I like it or not. They're going to show up because they talk to one another in the neighborhood, and then they send one over.
Go to the gay couple's house. They've got a lot of great food, a lot of
they've
great
got
cushions.
Great food.
Oh my gosh, do they have cushions? They have so many pillows, so many designer pillows,
so many great pillows, and so many good places to sit
pillows.
in. And
they have Vera linens you can sit on.
They'll take care of you. They'll give you their own. You'll get your own apartment if you come over to our house.
Pretty much.
Apartment. No, I would agree.
How about you? Any life lessons that you felt?
Well, I mean, I think I like the one where it's, Let Me Count the Ways. I thought was not about so much the fact that she's titillated by the fact that somebody's interested in her, but more that thing about not feeling too hung up about getting older and how you are when you're younger, your aspirations and all that kind of thing, how things change as you get older, and what becomes important to you is completely different in your 50s compared to what it is in your 20s. So that's where I was going to say I really resonated.
If you were to ask the question about the pots and pans, and you were to ask it to a 20-year-old or you ask it to a 50-year-old, the answers are going to be very different. The 20-year-olds is going to be like, no, I don't want no pots and pans.
I just want money. I want to go out. But things change as you get older, and I think that's what's kind of a great thing about seeing Knots Landing, at least in season 1, very relatable topics, things that actually people deal with day to day and still deal with, even though this was filmed 45 years ago. So it's still relevant.
Well, that was great. Thank you, everybody, for sending in such amazing questions, thought-provoking questions.
Yes, we enjoyed it.
That was really fun to kind of take a look back at the season 1, which, of course, if you hadn't heard, today is the 45th anniversary of the debut of Knots Landing. So we want to thank the cast and crew, whoever is remaining still with us. Thank you so much for all of your hard work and putting together something that, we enjoyed back then, but that new generations are enjoying now, even today, on streaming platforms such as Plex and Apple TV and Prime Video.
We also want to thank Diane Letulier and Johnny for joining us in The Circle for episodes earlier this season.
We also want to thank all of you for watching and tuning in, and we'll be back in the first quarter of next year with new episodes from Season 2 of Knots Landing.
So I suppose there's only one thing left to say, Doug.
Seaview then. Back on the sack.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everyone.
The tone of this episode was so raw and so real.
Okay, here he goes.
The tone of this episode was so raw and so real. There really wasn't.
Blooper.
We are going to be tying up some loose ends, revealing poll results. We're going to do that again.
One more time.
The tone of this episode was so raw.
So I suppose there's only one thing left to say. Seaview then.
Back on the sack.
Oh, it's Jill. It's Jill the ghost.
Bobby.
The little house ghost.
Bobby and Betsy, shut up.